The
Yeah.
best example I can come up with is I don't respect 6ix9ine. I don't like Lil Pump.
Yeah, I don't know what any of that means.
I don't know
Those
who any of
rappers.
those people are.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we are old.
Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I'm the League Dad, and as always, joined by my buddies. I've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alistair. We're all here again, reunited to talk about League and all the things happening around the LCS. Lots of stuff going on, but before we dive into any of the news or any of the action, let me just get a quick update. How you guys doing? We haven't talked since last week, so I kind of miss y'all. What y'all been up to? How are games going? All that good stuff.
I'm doing well. The biggest patch in my life is coming soon, where mastery tokens can be earned on ARAM. So I'm very happy. They also put out a patch preview on, I don't know, it was 13.5 or 6, where turrets are going to be buffed on ARAM. So double happy. Besides that, I mean, in reality, the weekend was fun. Watching LCC finals was fun. LCS team looked good. You know what? You go next. I'm done.
He stopped it till you Liquid was like, forget it. Let's just go.
Overall, for me, it's been pretty good. I got to take some LP from Isla and Aframu this week,
Ooh.
among
Whoa.
others. So pretty good, pretty good.
All right.
Dang, that's crazy. You're smurfing. Actually, funny thing about ARAM, I did play on the PBE recently. They changed the tower debris. So the first turret that falls, it doesn't have the whole line thing. It's just the little turret, like the dead turret. So the debris is gonna be different on ARAM. So that's pretty cool. And then I think the tower debris is for the second tier turret now. So some interesting updates to the map. I'm pretty excited for all the ARAM players out there. Because not having like the larger terrain at early on is gonna be way less oppressive. So that's kind of cool. Otherwise, yeah, League's been great. LEC was really awesome. LEC finals. Holy cow! I hope that it's just a precursor to getting 3 international events if we have 3 splits for them. If we all adopt that, so that would be sick. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, speaking of ARAM changes, just changes in general, I know 13.5 just had a patch preview, and I think for the past few patches, it just seems like there's been so many impactful changes. I know before it seemed like, man, they're changing things, but it doesn't really feel like anything is actually changing. Gameplay just kind of feels the same, but at least the past few patches, I know for me in support, I've kind of stopped playing ranked because I'm kind of like, I don't really know what to play right now. Things are just so different, and it looks like they're changing things big again. So real quickly, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on, what do you think of, Freak kind of being in the, the changes, being in charge of the changes. Have you enjoyed the more impactful, patches happening more frequently, or I don't know. What are your general thoughts on that? You like it, dislike it? What do you think?
My general thoughts, and this is slightly controversial maybe, is that I think that those guys, not just Freak, but those guys on the Bounce team probably saw that they're doing layoffs at Riot, and they're like, shit, we need to do our job. And so they've been on procrastinating, they're on overtime right now. They're just doing all these changes, right? Now that's slightly half joking. Take aside, I'm not the one actively playing as much. I just play ARAM and watch Pro. So because Pro play, I think, needs a huge shakeup, I'm happy about it. I would imagine if I was doing my rank grind right now, it sucks. Because you just like, shit just changes so much, especially for junglers. Like jungle got such a huge XP change coming in the works, right? So that would be so hard to deal with. So kind of sucks for people who are actually trying to grind. But for me as a viewer, very happy.
For me personally, I have very mixed feelings on it. I really like that the game's actually changing rather than having the same meta for like 3 or 4 years straight with pretty much no change. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes it is a little bit too much, and it can feel kind of bad. But I'm also in the mind that the game's been in a really bad state for a pretty long time, so things are going to get worse before they get better, and I think it is on the way to get better. I think he's made a lot of intelligent changes to the game, because like the junglers aren't going to like me for saying this. Double clearing was so toxic for the game. It was so toxic. It was not balanced at all. I do think the, like, when you're invading and you lose, like, just get 20% less golden XP for it. That's just stupid. That's just not good design. So that's being removed in 13.5.
Yeah.
But on that, I think a lot of the changes have been positive so far. It just can be hard to keep up sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the changes I feel like have kind of been necessary. They're like a response to what the community wants, response to what pro play is doing, response to like stagnation and stuff. I mean, it's just the common complaint is like it sucks that it's happening now. Like we're gonna get 4 or 5 major patches all within a single regular season,
Yeah.
right? Back to back to back to back to back. So like that's where it's like really frustrating, I think. If you are a pro player, it's like, maybe you want change, but you're really annoyed because you have to adapt over and over again. And it should have happened during preseason, but that's not where we live it in, so that's okay, I guess. I like that they're making at least big changes and that they are pushing the game in a way where it's not staying the same. And but I think it's also scary because we don't know where we're gonna end up, right? Because like I don't think Riot should know where we're gonna end up. There's no way to predict where we're gonna end up. And if you just look at LEC, they were stuck on 13.1B, and they got to LEC finals, and the meta was completely different from the start of playoffs to the end of playoffs. So if that can happen in just that one patch, well, there was 3 patches after that, and we don't really know what the meta should look like. And unfortunately, also, I think for regular season, like a lot of teams aren't pushed to innovate yet either. So, yeah, that's my opinion on the patches. I just wish that we could get a world where they were separate and more spaced out. But I mean, at least the changes are happening. So.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a balance of both, right? You want changes, but then changes happen, they happen fast. It's like it's kind of hard to keep up and adjust. And I think this will be interesting for pro play because now we're going to really see who adapts to the meta or can find the new meta quickly and maybe take advantage of it. Or they just kind of stick to whatever it is they do because they don't have enough time to figure it out because there's so much new stuff. But
Yeah, it's a little unfair though, I think sometimes.
I agree.
Because it's like, there's quotes like Beryl has made where the world championship, the world finals, whoever wins is like so often based on luck, whether the meta suits you or not. And then when you throw in 4 or 5 big patches into one regular season, it's just you roll the dice to see who the patch fits. Because like, yeah, you can say it's a skill to adapt, but like we're talking like 2 weeks or 2 weeks at a time of space. Like adaptation is not natural or organic during those 2 weeks to where you can actually get an understanding what the patch is. So it's just random to who it suits and fits. And you can have someone who's a great team at the beginning of the regular split, and then the meta is just different at the end of the regular split. Like we're not even talking like, spring to summer. We're talking in the same split to like in the same playoffs. Like, so I mean, I feel bad for the
Yeah, no,
players. where it's
They're
like,
just making up
okay.
for lost time. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all,
Yeah.
I
they're
mean,
compressing all the
way
changes right now.
The way I see
Yeah.
it, and in my opinion, is I kind of obviously like it feels bad, like I said, but I would rather they go fast and loose because it's much easier to tell someone to pull back than it is to tell someone to speed up, right? If they're going fast and loose with these patches and they're making a lot of changes, they're going to make the changes faster and then they can slow down rather than what it was before Freak was here and it was just a bunch of nonsense patches that they could have changed absolutely nothing. The game would have been the same. They
Mhm.
never changed. Freak can pull
Yeah.
back. It's just much easier.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I agree with what you're saying, Mitchell. It does kind of seem like it wouldn't be fair to pros. And I think when you do keep changing the game, it's hard. You have to have some kind of constant because then it is harder to see who truly is the best team because it's dependent on so many, chance things, RNG, if you will, right? And so if you don't have any kind of constant and everything is always changing, that's why I think partially you want best of threes, right? Because it's like anything can happen in one game, but you get a better sense of who's actually the better team when you play a little more games. So I think
Yeah,
I think
totally.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Best
mean,
of
I
threes,
totally
please.
agree. I was advocating for this last year, right before Worlds. Like, I've always disliked that it's just a crapshoot. Like, you're the luckiest team, so that's why you get it. Like, I dislike the world shift, and we did discuss last year that it's like a skill to shift between the metas, and that is true, right? Usually the teams that are more flexible win worlds, but once in a while, like an IG or something, like you're just the better team for that meta. Or in recent memory, DRX, right? Like they should not win most worlds, but they won this one. So now it's more relevant, and Mitch is like more correct now because the changes just happen so often for pros, right? So now it's even more of a crapshoot. Like LEC had 2 patches, 13.1 and 13.1b. They played their whole finals on 13.1b while we're on 13.4 on live servers. Like
Yeah.
that is an issue, right? Because and it wouldn't be an issue if the patch hadn't changed so much. But we basically changed the game twice between those patches. So yeah, it's more relevant now than ever.
Yeah. Well, one other change that we didn't actually mention yet, and this is going back to just regular solo queue again. And I know, you know, not all of us are playing ranked at the moment, but they did change how much LP you get with wins and losses. Alistair, I don't know if you've experienced that yet in your climb, and I've been, you know, seeing it. I've been playing a bunch of different Smurfs and stuff, and I have noticed the bigger gains and losses. Do any of you guys have anything to say to that? I don't know how people listening to this, you know, in your rank grind, let us know in the comments like what you think about the changes. Does it make you feel better that you can actually climb faster? But I know at the same time you could also demote faster. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'll go ahead since I'm the one who plays the most solo queue.
Okay.
Overall, I think it's a nice change. It can we'll have to see because in a few months it might make the inflation problem a bit worse.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the nicest thing, especially for below masters, is if you demote or you fail promos, you're guaranteed 1 game pretty much.
Yeah.
Right, like you go down, you demote, you go down to 75 LP. Unless your MMR is just trashed, you're going to one game and you promote. It's really not that bad.
Yeah.
As for the inflation's been a problem for a while because people just kind of learned how to game the system. Because a couple of years ago, rank 1 was like if you hit 1,000 LP, you were insane. Now 1,000 LP is almost not. It hasn't caught back up yet to what it was last season, but 1,000 LP is almost like required for challenger. Right. So it's kind of bad. So we'll have to see how this causes inflation to work with LP.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is natural. It happens on all the other ladders. It's like the LP just gets larger and larger to the cutoff, and at some point, like maybe you have to consider a ranked reset, or I'm not really sure how to fix that, but yeah, that happens with everyone. And I personally like it, especially I think for like very average play, like you know, not for the people way at the top, for like just very average, you know, silver, gold, platinum, whatever. It feels nicer because you know the average person, they don't want to grind 10 games a week or 20 games a week. So if you do play your 2 or 3 games and you win all of them, like it feels good to get a ton of LP. So I like it personally for like the average person.
Yeah. And I'm kind of sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I just remember playing season 2 and 3. We were getting like 4 LP in D4 and a 3 LP per game. And then, like you was 15. So yeah, it's a lot better now. Or it was a D5 back then. It's a lot better now. I think, it's something kind of all in your head. Maybe on a large sample size, it kind of evens out a little bit, but it was still veered toward you getting more positive gains. Because at the end of the day, like if you're good and you're winning a lot, you should climb quickly, right? And anyone who's ever played on a Smurf before is like, why does it take me like 30 games? Even if I win 90% of games, why does it take me 30 games to go up a major division? Like maybe not 30, maybe like 10 to 20, but it's just too many. So it's just better this way. We're wasting less time.
Good news is Smurf Q's gone. I don't know why it was ever implemented in the first place. It was the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah.
Smurfing is definitely better. I will say that because you know you just climb faster, get right out of there.
If people want to Smurf, just let them fly through the ranks. Just let it get over with.
Yeah, let me fly through the ranks, please.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I will say I do like the aspect that it doesn't feel as grindy. I think you guys mentioned that already, because someone like I don't have as much time to play, even though I'd love to play a lot more. In fact, it just feels better. And I'm the kind of guy too, if I like win or lose like 1 or 2, I'll stop playing on that account, or like I'll just go, you know, because I know my mental will suffer for it. So it actually works out better for me, because I'm kind of like, if I win, I'll play another one. You know, if I win again, I'll play another one. But if I take a loss, I'm like, all right, I gotta, you know, play ARAM or go to a different account. So that actually helps me in a sense that, you know, I'm not going to take these huge loss streaks. And then when I do win, I'm, you know, hopefully playing with good mental and good streak. So that it'll be interesting how it pans out. We'll see in a few months and revisit that conversation. But let's go to the LCS now. Danny has emerged and finally has spoken out, and it's caused a little bit of not drama, but just kind of maybe questions and understanding of what all went down in EG. If you guys remember, he had left almost kind of suddenly right before the finals, saying that he had mental health issues and he needed to take a step back. People thought he would come back for Worlds, didn't come back for Worlds, and hasn't come back to the team since. And now we get two pieces of content that comes out. Danny clearing up rumors about like what happened, because a lot of people were thinking EG was at fault. And then Thorin coming out with a piece saying basically there was a lot of signs that EG probably ignored and should have seen earlier to help Danny out. So what are your thoughts on this? Kevin, I'll start with you because I know you really took a deep dive into that and listened to both sides. So what are your thoughts on the whole Danny situation?
Yeah, so I mean, keep it with a grain of salt. Thorin has a mixed track record. Sometimes he's very correct, like on TSM, and sometimes he's just very wrong, like everything he's ever posted on Twitter. But in this case, like the community actually seemed to also, at least when the first post came out, they seemed to actually upvote him, which is very unusual. I'll like break down what I think the most major points are. One of the most major points of the whole EG thing is like, do you remember when Danny broke down, like after beating Liquid in a 3-2 series where he didn't play well, but they just qualified for Worlds, and he was crying on stage, and like he was sad, and that should have been a warning sign for everyone, right? And one of the big warning signs for this EG Oregon, why it's very sketch what happened with Danny, is like they didn't bring a sub for him. Like they must have known, like this was almost certainly not the first time he's ever had an issue, and they didn't bring a sub for him. Kaori was not a sub. He was in Turkey chilling. They brought a jungle sub for their MVP jungler Inspired, and they were like, we'll just game the system and bring a coach as our other sub. So to me, like at best, that means that they just wanted to game the system, right? Get another coach on stage or whatever. At worst, it means that they were pressuring Danny because they were like, Danny, you don't have a sub, so good luck. I hope it's not the latter, but that's already sketchy. The other thing that came up was after this pretty much hit piece on EG, we see that Danny comes out and says, hey guys, I'm a streamer. None of these things are true that is being accused about EG. They're the best. And first of all, the post kind of felt like a PR statement, which is a little odd. The second thing is he didn't put his stream on the post. There was no content piece. There was no image. There was no video. He just put a text post out there and said, hey, watch my stream. By the way, don't link my stream. Also, Danny isn't a streamer, guys. Danny streamed, according to Somni Insights, Danny streamed 85 hours in the last 2 years. And he got a full-time streamer contract on the day that this hit piece comes out. So these are all a little sketchy. And the last thing was the sister thing that we talked about last year, where Danny's sisters was leaked. The comment that she wrote about how the EG org is not as kind or family friendly as it sounds or as it seems. Some people are saying, do we know if that's her sister? But the organization has never denied it. No one's ever come out, and it also links to her like whole history of her pictures of Danny's sister. So there's a lot of these comments. I think that the Danny clearing up the rumors, like, yes, we should believe the person when they say, I'm doing fine. But it's also like this guy's like a kid. So if he's been in a bad relationship, like anyone who's ever seen a friend in a bad relationship, you don't necessarily they don't usually say, I'm being abused.
No. Yeah. Unreliable narrator. Yeah.
Also the one paying your paycheck and who just signed you onto your livelihood contract just now. So it's a little hard to stomach.
Blink twice if you're being held hostage. Yeah. I mean, my thoughts on this. I think you covered it pretty well, Kevin. I'll just say I'm always willing to dip a little into the conspiracy theory, the tinfoil hat theory, and say, yeah, EG is probably not the nicest, greatest company. And Peter Dunn, left instantly. I think some other guy was advocating. It was one of the side coaches or assistant coaches was advocating for Danny's mental health and ended up getting let go or left very quickly after that. Impact was very quick to leave. We know. So there are some little signs that also kind of point to EG maybe not being the best org. Um, I mean, if I'm being honest, like there is no good org really. There's no good company. They're all going to tell you that you're family, and then totally screw you over if they have to. So I just actually went to check on Danny's stream while you were talking, and yeah, there are no VODs. There's no schedule.
Oh
There hasn't been
god.
a last. There's not like a time that he was last online. So he's not streamed in a long time, and there's nothing on it to say that he's going to stream again. So um, I'm good for now. You know what? I'm gonna buy into a little bit, right? Because if we buy into it a little bit, then maybe we eventually find more details, and then maybe we can get Danny out of jail and he can actually play in the LCS or something. Because yeah, right now, I mean, it sounds like he's on EG contract jail, and no one's willing to buy it out and stuff like that. So he's not gonna
Yeah.
play. Yeah.
It's important to note that you brought it up, which helped me remember. Peter Dunn is good friends with Thorin. Like they're on shows together all the time. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
where are his sources coming from? I mean, we don't know, but it's not hard to read between the lines.
Yeah,
guys.
okay, yeah. I did. Okay, well, that extra piece of detail, I mean, like Thor's not gonna out his source, right? But okay, yeah, it feels a bit more real. I'm sure it's like, slightly more likely, and still some pieces that we just are never gonna know though. At the same time,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. It seems like all the pieces you mentioned point towards EG probably being the bad guy here.
Hey, live evil, am I right? So
That's
Yeah.
I
true.
mean, a lot of orgs are bad. Even Liquid is like bad. Like there's so many
Yeah.
orgs that are bad. I think the issue with EG is that they're the ones coming up with their PR, which is like, we're a family, guys. We're so good to our players. We're just like the best. We're gonna change the space. And every time an org has done that, like when Team Ember tried to come into the space and then they didn't play their players or whatever, and then they just say like, we're so much better than all the endemic orgs, they almost always like are extra sketchy. So
I mean, we have
it's
to
just
remember,
good
right?
to be on your guard.
It's not a team; it's a company.
Yeah.
Bottom line, like they're there to make money, and as for most successful companies, almost all big companies don't really care who they step on to get there, and
Mhm.
get who gets between them and their money is a problem for them. So I'm not I'm not trying to point fingers, but they are companies. We've seen this happen a lot in the last few years on different topics, but it all boils down to it's not a team, it's not a family. It's people trying to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on top of that, you know what? I think this really shows that the Players Association, I don't know, do they do anything? Doesn't seem like they do
Yeah.
much. Like, where was the help there, right? There's supposed to be like an organization that's supposed to help fight against, companies that are being greedy and taking advantage of players, because, it's the Players Association. But I don't know, did they do anything there? This was like probably one of a really big thing that they should have done. They should have been able to jump in there. Um, food for thought. Maybe we should have them have more power or something, or
We
be
need to
more
get
involved.
the LEC player association over here so they can get our format changed because it
Yeah,
seems like they did
care.
work. Yeah.
They did stuff, right? In the LEC, half of the teams voted to like not have that format
Mhm.
change, but all the players themselves were like, no, we're making this happen. So we
Yeah.
got to do that too. We got to be an LCS like, no, you're telling us, what did you do to our boy Danny? What'd you do to him? What'd you
That's
make him
right.
say?
That's
So,
true.
yeah.
Well, wishing the best for him. Again, like what you mentioned, just the fact that he's not a streamer. He doesn't really put out good, like captivating content. He doesn't seem like really an entertainer. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And it does seem to just point to like he's contract jail. Like he has to do
Yeah.
something,
Dude,
So
I just want to see it. We just know there was a fist fight between Inspired and Danny. Happened last year, summer playoffs. Show us the
Yeah.
tapes. Show us the
show
VODs.
us the
Dude,
I
VODs.
wanna see it.
content, man. How are they holding this back?
I know,
Yeah.
right? Come on, EG. You want to make money? There you go. We just gave you a tip. All right. Well, speaking of mental health issues, Blaze Olive is stepping back from Immortals and is being replaced by Bo Lulu. I think that's how you pronounced it. TCL
No idea who
player.
that is. No,
I've heard the name before. I've seen him internationally, I believe. But
Yep, he
I
was
actually
the
didn't
TCL
know.
mid laner before.
Yeah, I didn't actually know he was in the LCS. But yeah, so he'll be replacing him. Blaze Olive put out a statement saying that he's made the decision. Who knows if that's him or if he's nice way of like benching him. I don't know. Like he was always just kind of like a mid-tier mid laner for me. I know some people were kind of trying to put him up in the upper echelons, but I was never really convinced.
Yeah.
If anything, I put Palafox. I've always thought Palafox was better. But anyways, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, again, Immortal's kind of bottom place team. Maybe his mental was just like, this sucks. Like, I'm out. I don't know. But thoughts about this? Again, another player kind of bowing out for mental health reasons. We've talked about this plenty on the show. A very sensitive topic. But yeah, give me your thoughts on it.
I mean, relevant to the Danny topic, it's like I'm also starting to think that like the new generation of NA talents, there's actually some good talents out there. Like Revenge is good. Kemby was supposed to be good. We've never seen him be good,
He's
but
on
like
IMT.
he's supposed to be good.
You can't tell if he's who's good.
And
on
that's
IMT.
my issue, right? And Blaze Olive is on IMT now too. A lot of these players who have promise are put on bottom tier orgs, and then they obviously can't show their full potential, and then we just write them off as terrible. Like, okay, Pioshek isn't good, that good, but he's not like 9th place, 8th place jungler, right? He's supposedly in the LCS should be like 3rd at least or 4th. But if you just don't have the right coaching or the right environment, you cannot shine, or you're just in a bad team, right? And so we keep throwing away NA talents because not all, but most of the promising talents get thrown to a bottom team, or if they're thrown to a top team, they just don't have the support system around them. Like, I want to be G2 Yike. If I ever debuted, I want to be G2 Yike. I want a team that plays around me, that simps for me, and makes me look like a god. Because like you see the few games where Yike is getting exploited, he looks terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, my opinion is IMT go next, but I'd rather see the org just removed from LCS. No one cares about watching them. But the real answer is like, speaking for a Blaze Olive, like he took the long way. He was challenger in like season 2, and waited all this time to get. He went through solo queue, and then he went through the amateur scene, and then he was in academy hell for years, and then he finally gets on a team, and it's Dignitas.
Yeah.
And then he gets dropped from Dignitas, and he goes to IMT.
Yeah.
He's been at this for 10 or 11 years, something like this, just for this. My mental would be trashed too. He committed so much time and so much effort and everything to do this, just to be put on IMT and Dig.
Yeah.
It's just like, why even bother?
Yeah, it's hard. I think, I mean, I'm gonna say it harshly, I guess, is like I never felt like he was good enough to be on
That's what I was
better
gonna.
team.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, he's on bad orgs, right? And he's had some rough times. He was on Golden Guardians for a bit too. I don't know if they're a bad org or a good org, because I mean there was a Reddit post about average placements for LCS teams all time. Golden Guardians was at the bottom, like way down there, like 7.5 average placements. But I don't know if they're a bad org, right? Because they have their current roster's doing great. They have that one roster do pretty good, and they get bought by 100 Thieves. So I don't know. But I do think that a Blaze Olive, he has been at it for a long time, and there's probably a lot to say that he hasn't gotten the right care, he hasn't gotten the right coaching, not the right setup and development. But regardless of all that, how he is now and how it's came out is he's probably not LCS caliber, or he's not LCS caliber enough to keep and consider developing. You know, I think there's a lot of talk about like older players coming back and having resurgences. Stixxay, right? Double of Bjergsen, a variety of other players coming back. Huhi, right? Changing roles and stuff. So it's like he can still do it and come back some other time. But as it is right now, he's been in the LCS year after year. He has not ever been above a mid-tier mid laner. I would say he's consistently just been a bottom tier mid laner. And I don't know. Maybe it's just time to just cut ties for the LCS. For him personally, it sucks. For the LCS as a whole, as we're trying to get better as a league, I don't know if he belongs anymore. So yeah.
I'll push back a little. Last year, Spring Split, I think Bjergsen put him 3rd or 4th, and he was almost an All-Pro last year. I think he was 4th place on the votes. He was on not a great Golden Guardian. So like that means that the pros. Okay, this was our weakest split ever. It was JoJo, Bjerg, and then like Dead Abadage was like the top 3, I think, if I remember correctly. So it was between him and Palafox fourth place, third place, and there were not a lot of good mids, but he had promise on a really terrible team, and then he kind of boomed from there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's tough because you have to be kind of pretty like standout. I mean, I think of Golden Glue, right? Like he was a person also just constantly around and apparently was a scrim god. And like every time it was like, hey, we're going to give him a chance. Every time he went to a different org, it was like, this might be it. This might be his year. And every time it just didn't seem like he could kind of catapult himself to the next level. He had glimpses. He had good glimpses. But to be truly in the next level, look, the reality is any sport or whatever, even at the professional level, there's still going to be the best and then the mid tier, and you might just be a mid tier player your whole time. I mean, I love that, you know, in a sense, like even Solo, who has kind of been known, and, you know, I've seen him on a cast and I really am liking his personality. It's hard to imagine that he used to be this super toxic player, because when I hear him on cast, he sounds like a pretty chill dude, right? Like he, you know, and again,
League
it could just be
people, bro. League changes
maybe.
people.
Lots of people are nice people. Once you put them in front of a league game, they are.
It's true. That's
people we
a good
know.
point. You are right. I won't mention myself, but anyways, back to go to Solo. But the fact that he's kind of come out as this player who's like the mercenary, right? Like he's not the best, but he can hold his own, right? Like that's sometimes like teams just need that. Like, okay, we have a little bit of budget room. We can get somebody who's kind of decent. Here's this guy, right? So all I'm saying is that I'm not trying to knock Blaze Olive or Golden Glue or anything like that, but that's just the reality of it, is that there will always be people who are on the next level. Even if they have bad performances, overall consistently, you know that they're a tier above everybody else. And so that's the only point I wanted to make with that. Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I wanted to say is like, okay, so even if we're not talking about a Blaze Olive, say it's just someone else, right? We bring in someone new. Same thing happens. You've grinded for years and you're on IMT and it just doesn't matter. It's just a repeating cycle. Nothing's going to change with that org. That org has not been good since 2016, and even then, when they went like 17-1, they couldn't make it to finals. Ever since they've been back, they've been bottom tier at best. I would honestly say I think most of the academy team, or a lot of the academy teams, could beat them. I don't know this for sure because I haven't seen a lot of the games, but I feel like, or like scrims or anything, but I think IMT would lose to a lot of the top NACL teams right now. I don't understand why this org is here. They're clearly not good.
Yeah, I think that goes back into
they
that bigger. It goes back to that bigger, you know, question again about franchising or whatever. But that's kind of, you know, we're stuck. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with the IMT and the digs and stuff, it's pretty hard to, if you are a rookie and you do get on those teams, and then that's the advice, right? That's the move in NA, unfortunately, is just don't sign to those teams if you want your career to actually have a showing, or if you do decide to sign those teams, hope you have a short contract and you're just using it to debut yourself and you can get somewhere else. You know, Kenvi was honestly, like, before he went into the LCS, was a very hot prospect, was talked about a lot here and there as just seeing something that could be great. And you know what? I imagine his career is probably just going to die because he has not had a standout performance at all, ever. I mean, he's had a couple games where he doesn't look terrible here and there, but he hasn't had like any streak or any moment in the last year and a half where I'm like, yeah, Kenvi's a good player on the LCS stage. And that sucks for him. And that's just how his career is probably going to go down. And you know what? You're going to have to do like some sort of dip away, take some time away, maybe go back to academy on a different team and then try to rise up to a different roster. And that's just a really hard and long way. You know, not everybody, but then you have other rookies, right? Harry and Yeon on TL, it's looking rough, but I mean, they're in better spots than Kenvi, right? Tenacity and Buzio, also looking a bit rough, but probably still in better spots than, you know, Kenvi and Revenge. So, yeah, I mean,
I think winning also helps. Like, even if you're not a great player, if you're new or whatever, and you're on a better team that winning sometimes can mask some of your deficiencies because, you know, inevitably you'll get somewhat carried by the better players on your team. But if you're on something like Immortals where it's just winning is not there and it's you know, there's really no no hope on that team. Like, you're right. Like for Kenvi, I feel like this could be a potential career killer because, I mean, for me, just one who doesn't watch a lot of like the academy scene, like my first glimpse of him is in the LCS, and it's not a good look, right? So I don't know any of the things that are good. And I know teams know him and his history, so there's probably that. But again, having your debut coming into an org that is just bottom tier and it puts you in a bad light, it's like, it might not even be worth signing just to say that you're an LCS player on one of these bottom orgs.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just
they're
a
below
kind of
bottom
curves.
tier. I don't know why. I don't think
Yeah,
IMT and
true.
Dig Dig should be replaced in my opinion. I mean, I know it's not that easy, but like, let's be honest. Who's tuning in to watch IMT and Dig play?
I'm watching Dig
The
play to
only-
see.
the only
just-
reason
they're gonna lose.
I
right?
They
watch
already
those
won,
games-
man. So that's over
the
now.
only reason I watch IMT and Dig play is because I know if I don't, something's gonna happen. But I have to force myself and waste an hour watching them get blasted. Unless it's that one game where Jensen just actually plays the game for the first time with the
They
split.
beat like FlyQuest and you miss it. You're like, ah.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
like, oh.
But like,
Mhm.
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
wants to sit down and watch these two teams play.
Yeah.
Well,
Look
yeah,
at Clutch. Clutch
they are gonna get
Clutch
moved.
makes it to Worlds. They get bought out by Dig, and now they're just perma bottom tier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all a
Coincidence?
bummer.
I think not. Like,
It's all a bummer.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
bummer.
It's
It's
depressing.
okay though.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I mean,
okay. You know, it's fine, guys. It's
and
fine.
that's the thing. Like you talked about, like teams,
Fine.
players. I think Mitchell, you alluded to it. It's like until players stop signing with these orgs just to be in the LCS, it probably will continue like this because look at Jensen and Santorin again. Another case of like
That's bad.
I mean, think about it. Nobody else was offering them a contract. They want to be in the LCS still, you know. At this point, like now you got to look at it like, is it even worth having the title of an LCS player if you're on a team that's probably going to get beat by even some of the academy teams? Like, I don't know.
Unfortunately, no. It's
Yeah, that's what I
not.
mean. I don't know
just
if it's going to be
not,
worth
no.
it. But until
not worth
players realize that though, and they keep signing with these orgs, I don't know if there will be any actual
'Cause-
changes.
Because
I mean,
of
to be
money.
fair, it does depend on the money. It depends on the money.
It's money. It's like that's why it's a problem. They're franchise orgs. They're allowed to pay their players a certain amount of salary, and it's like, well, you know, it sucks for my career and my reputation. You know, I'm sure Jensen's like, this sucks, but I gotta pay bills, and I'm trying to make some money. I'm trying to save for retirement. Kenvi, Revenge, all those boys at IMT, right? Tactical, whatever. They said, screw it. We're gonna be a bottom tier. We're gonna be last place. I'm gonna get paid though. I'm gonna get paid to be last place. So
if
it
I'm making
sucks.
150K a year, I'm playing for IMT. I'm gonna be
Yes.
It
honest.
sucks. Yeah, I mean, so that's why it is not up to the players, unfortunately, right? It is up to franchising and the LCS and the Players Association.
True.
Yeah, I mean, I'm joking around. Alistair's being very serious about it, but it's true.
No, you're right.
You gotta
Yeah.
get rid of the orgs, IMT and Dig.
you're
That's
right.
There's
Yeah.
only it's not really the rest of the conversations around it. Just kind of are all tainted by that one thing that needs to happen. These two orgs need to go. So
I agree.
What are you
Okay,
gonna
we decided that. You've convinced me. All right, guys, we're getting rid
Yeah.
of Immortals.
we're getting rid of
Dignitas.
IMT
Come on.
and Dig.
LCS.
Decided.
Yeah, we've decided it should be
Yeah.
set in stone now. Well, look, let's go now let's shift over to the LCS. And that thing you mentioned about the average finishes for the LCS, I thought that was interesting. I actually pulled it up because, you know, speaking of Golden Guardians, it actually does surprise me that they're like the lowest because for some reason it seems like, yes, I know they've never been like a top tier team, but they always seem to surprise me, especially with Anero at the helm. Like you said, they pretty much built the 100 Thieves roster, which went on to be like, you know, a championship winning team. So
Yeah.
they can be good. And speaking of Golden Guardians right now, they had another killer week, you know, going 2-0 against EG and Cloud9. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like,
Very good,
again,
yeah.
a
That's
team
good.
that maybe for the most part, I don't know if a lot of people had them ranked high, but they're continuing to show and prove that they're a legit team. And I know early interviews, Anero was even saying confidently, and I know coaches will say this no matter what, but he
Yeah, he
really
does
did
that
seem
every
confident.
split.
I know he
Oh my God,
does,
does
but
that
it
every
seems
split.
like, but come on, it seems like he does more often than not seem to prove himself right. So anyways, let's talk
No,
about,
okay,
let's talk
I
about
thought it was
Golden. Okay.
funny.
What?
I
Yeah,
just
go.
wanted to say with it now, I specifically remember last year, Summer Split. He said
Okay.
we're going 14-4 and they went like 7 and like 11 or something, and then they ended like 8th place in playoffs, and like I was just like, Inero, dude, you do this every time. I don't trust you anymore. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just want to say that because I thought it was
No,
funny.
yeah, no. I mean, he does make. I'm not saying he doesn't make audacious claims. I just think that for whatever reason, it just seems that he, does seem to put teams or coach teams to respectable levels. But one of the things we said earlier about this team is that they were beating all the bad teams, but recently they've beat 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and EG. So let's talk about them a little bit. What are you seeing? Is this a trend that will continue, especially with teams like EG kind of seeming on the decline?
Yeah, I think for Golden Guardians, they had a period of time where they just had some of the worst staff ever, and I think they had purged some of that. And Nero has been on there for a while, so it's kind of hard to get a read on is he good or is he not.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember very noticeably because it's recent memory during most of the pandemic, the Golden, what are they called? Golden State Warriors organization just
Yeah.
they just cut back their funding, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
NBA wasn't doing that. So like those 2 years, I wouldn't say it's a free pass, but it's understandable why our recent memory of Golden Guardians is they were so trash because they just
Yeah.
were bad. And then when the org joined the league, yeah, they were also bad for quite a while.
Yeah, 10th place 4 times in a row, I think, something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like
it
that. It
was
was
4 or
either
5.
10th or 9th. It was very impressively bad. And
Yeah.
like to their credit, they were the org that did bet on Niles and Iconic, I
Oh.
believe it was, like
Iconic,
2
yeah.
collegiate
Yeah.
players, which has never been done, right? Was it because they didn't have budget, or is it because they actually like were trying stuff? I mean, it's probably because they didn't have budget. What's to say is like I think they've tried stuff. Like this org has tried stuff. They don't usually do the phone it in, buy a bunch of veterans, and just call it a day. Completely. They at least put some rookie talent around it and have like a plan. It's just that they're not that good. They when the one time they were good, they got completely gutted, and then they just have never looked the same. And that was the narrow roster too, with Hanser, Closer, FBI, Huhi, and somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Demonte? Someone else was mid.
It
was
was
Demonte.
Demonte. Yep. And they didn't. 100 Thieves was like, we're good. You can keep Demonte. It's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so torn on this roster because honestly, at the beginning of the split, when they were 0-4, I was ready to put them in the same boat. I was putting them in the same boat as IMT and Dig, just saying get rid of them.
Yeah.
And they haven't lost since week 2, and not even FlyQuest can lay claim to that. So I don't know what to think. I mean, I'm glad they're doing well. I mean, their games are worth watching, so I'm enjoying it. But it's so up and down with this org.
It is up and down with this org. I think regardless of the org, the players on Golden Guardians are pretty legit. I'm still kind of waiting for Licorice to fully settle in, but this last weekend from Licorice was good.
Mhm.
It was legit against C9 versus EG, versus C9 and EG. So Licorice played well this weekend. Stixxay, I was kind of lukewarm on a little bit. He had the hype of not dying all this time, but this weekend he played very well, actually. Both Stixxay and Licorice, the two players that I had the most question marks, actually proved their worth a lot. And then obviously River, Gory, and Huhi are just an insane trio. They're smart. They're everywhere, all over the map. They're fighting. Their mechanics are legit. I did like that. I felt like the EG game was a bit of a harder test. I think for a C9, Eminez came in, played Victor, made a couple of mistakes, burned his flash, and then Golden Guardians just punished him with Vi over and over again.
Mhm.
And it's something I noticed, right? River gets Vi a lot. And so I like that against EG. They took the Vi away, put him on Sejuani, see if he can still make plays. Oh yeah, River still made plays on the Sejuani. And Gory is, yeah, he can play Yone. He was looking pretty good on it. He had a terrible build. Oh my god. The Yone build was so bad, guys. Did you see it? It was like he didn't finish a mythic till way later in the game. It was like
Yeah.
Bloodthirster, Wits End, some
Woodson or something.
junk, so super weird. But he was playing well, and yeah, I gotta say, you know what? Golden Guardians got pushed by our second and third place teams. They got touched in the draft a bit. They were challenged. It wasn't, happy free Daisy wins. They had a couple of close fights where they actually were behind and stuff at times, but they still won very convincingly. So this is just a good team. This is just legit stuff, and I'm gonna let it go to Kevin after this, but we gotta talk about like, are they just the second best team? Is Gory just the best mid laner? Is River, up there for just the best jungler? Who he maybe just the best support? Like something like conversations like this have to actually be talked about.
Mm.
I would say for expected value, this is not just the second best team; it's probably the best team. In terms of like at least their core. Okay, Licorice is the problem, but he was good last week.
Hmm.
Their core, Gory is just better than Vikla. Like Vikla makes like the only person who makes more mistakes than Vikla on average, I would say, is like Harry, and by a lot. But Harry makes a lot more. But Vikla makes a lot of mistakes. He's just on a winning team, guys. He like
Yep.
ints away, and then we laugh because they win. He's like, aha, Vikla wins again. Haha, died 4 times in Aurelia after getting first blood. Haha. If he was on a bad team, this guy would get flamed to hell, guys. If he was NA, he would get flamed even more. River has almost never had a bad game. Almost. He ever since Gory came in, even before, but River has just been playing well, and he was playing well on a terrible Dignitas, guys. Like this
Mhm.
guy has been in Elo hell for so long, and he deserves this team. And Gory has been pretty consistent. Like I think he's the number one mid laner for me in terms of like you just saw me flame Flickle, right? I think River plays more consistently than Spica. Spica's highs are higher than River, but River just generally doesn't do bad, which is what you want in a jungler. That's like a Yankos jungler, right? And then their bot lane, like I don't rate them that highly, but their performance is just like it's impossible to deny that they have been doing well. And so if you really think about it, like FlyQuest is like strength is their bot lane, and then their top side like is good, but their mid jungle is just like could flip the game sometimes, and they will look bad when they do. So in a head-to-head fight, FlyQuest has more firepower, so they should win. But they've looked bad more often than the current Golden Guardians in their last 7 games. They won them mostly solidly. Like there's a reason why there was like 5 games of 0 deaths. That doesn't just happen by coincidence.
Yeah, I think too. Like if going back to that synergy, you really saw it against C9. Poor Eminez, like as your first 2 weeks, like first game in the LCS. Oh my gosh, like they just would not leave him alone. And I will say too, because Stixxay has been playing amazing, and I feel like even at this point, even if Licorice just didn't ever show up, they'd still be pretty good. I mean, for the most part, they've kind of have been 4v5ing, and so if he actually steps up, the potential is amazing here, because I do think, I really watched closely this past week at the synergy of, Gory, River, and Huhi. And I got to say, Mitchell, I think you were spot on that analysis, because they just seem like they are on the same page. Like the coordination from them, you could see it in their movements. I mean, they're all roaming at the perfect exact time. They're all coordinated in what exactly they're going to do. It's impressive. And, to have it this early in the year, I think bodes well for them, because, regardless of meta, I think if they have the same ideas and are on the same page about things, I think tactically, whatever champions you put, they'll figure something out. They'll be able to make advantages there. So overall, I think they're doing amazing.
Did you guys listen to the recent Dive episode? They talked a lot about Huhi specifically and how he is kind of just an unsung hero. Both Licorice and Stixxay gave interviews about how Huhi flames the crap out of you when you make mistakes, and he's really, really aggressive about being good at the game, I think. And I gotta say, you know what? He does go under the radar quite a lot, even on 100 Thieves when he won and then was like 3 finals in a row or whatever that crazy stat is for 100 Thieves. This guy's super underrated, and I imagine that it's really hard to see how good he is on stage just from his play because of, shot calling, whatever he's saying, and whatever he does behind the scenes and stuff out of game. So I think that looking forward, we really have to think like the conversation was always like Cordia J and Vulcan, and then kind of just peters out. But maybe it's just Huhi. Maybe right now it's just Huhi, and we should be giving him more props because this guy's been in the LCS for a long ass time. So I think it's really great that Huhi is getting some recognition. Maybe deserves more if I'm really thinking about it. If I'm thinking about, if I'm looking at the 100 Thieves players when they're split apart, right? Very clearly, Closer, Someday, Abadage, right? Like they seem like they're kind of lost, right? Off of their super roster. So maybe it was Huhi pulling them together the whole time. And fun fact, if Golden Guardians goes 2-0 this weekend, 9-game win streak, it'll be bigger than what FlyQuest had this year. And it's very likely if you look at their matches. I think it's like TL and
Ooh,
TL and
Kevin,
TS.
that hurts.
It's
Yeah.
I'm
TLIMT.
dumb. I'm dumb.
Yeah, so they could realistically go 2-0, have a 9-game win streak.
Dang.
You know, be in a real like we would have to wait for the Golden Guardians FlyQuest direct matchup, which I think happens not this week.
It's
but,
literally
you know,
last
last
game.
last
just looked it
game.
up.
Oh,
Okay,
hype.
that's just the most hype thing ever.
Last day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That worked out perfectly because you know what? In a normal year, normal split, that's a throwaway game. No one cares about that game.
Yeah.
Now that sounds like that might be the best game of spring split. That's awesome, right? I want both these teams to be playing super darn well. Don't drop a game to anybody else, and then fight each other and see who's the best. Because if the world is FlyQuest and Golden Guardians are our two best teams, ooh, that's a good world. I mean,
That's
we're eating
spicy.
good. That is spicy. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go. I hope these teams just keep it going. You know.
You know what? If our top 2 teams are FlyQuest and Golden Guardians, I'm okay with
That's-
Dignitas and
yeah.
IMT existing. Honestly,
Yeah.
if it was just gonna be like TL 100 Thieves again, I
right.
just get rid of them. But you know what?
Yeah.
If we're actually having some spice, I'm okay with this.
You're right. That would
Very
be amazing.
interesting.
If
It's very
Golden
interesting.
Guardians, I'll say this right now, I'm committing to this. If Golden Guardians,
Oh, wait. We have to explain this now because
Oh,
Kevin
God.
mentioned
I
this.
forgot about
and then
that. I was
Kevin
just gonna say this.
Kevin mentioned this in the Discord. We decided that we're gonna have this kind of recurring segment thing now, where if somebody says they're gonna make like a take or something, and they want
Going
to
all in.
go all in, like the podcast name, they have to
Yeah.
declare
Like
it
the
here. And we're gonna like record it and go back to this. So Alistair's making an all-in commitment right here. So I just wanted to preface it before you bet your life away
Oh,
here. So
boy.
that we
I'm,
can...
I'm putting stakes on this.
Okay,
If
all right, let's
Golden
go.
Guardians, If Golden Guardians wins the split, I'm buying a jersey for everyone on the team. Or
Oh.
all 4 of us.
Yeah.
Guardians
Oh.
Okay,
wins.
so I'm going.
If they like win playoffs,
Win
Oh,
playoffs.
they win,
Shoot,
they win it all.
I'm
Yeah,
cheering
win
for
it
him.
all.
Wow.
Spring split
Oh.
champion, going to MSI. Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
hell yeah,
Yeah,
that's
if
spicy.
they go to MSI, we all get a jersey.
Hey,
I like that
Alistair, we're gonna be at the finals too, so that would be
Oh,
freaking
my
hype
God.
because it's in Raleigh. That's
Please.
right.
That would be the coolest timeline. That would be like
Oh,
that would be
man.
like our own personal DRX. You know what I mean?
Heck,
Like that is
yeah.
so sick.
Dude, FlyQuest
Yeah.
and Golden Guardians, you're really getting me hype about that now because these are two orgs that like are just not in the conversation, and the fact that
Oh my
this could be
God.
actually happening, it's gonna be crazy. So I'm excited about that. Is there any final thoughts on Golden Guardians? Because I know we're just like heaping praise
Yo,
at them.
6 days deft, guys. Holy cow. He's having
Dude,
his
amazing.
resurgence. He's gonna win the whole thing. Oh my god, who he's Barrel. Oh my god, it's the same org, it's the same team. Let's go.
Oh,
Alright, I'm
man.
down for this.
They're both like that's the problem with Huki and Barrel. Like they look inty when they're bad, right?
Mm.
Because they're not like the biggest hands players, but they
Yeah.
have the brains. It seems like,
Oh,
right? Huki's average placement is just too high over the years from mid lane to support. Where we even clowned on him when he was a mid laner, but like he places high enough where like he must be doing something right. Last thing I wanted to say is like we mentioned last year when 100 Thieves was continued to win, EG was doing well. We're like all these like endemic orgs just keep on taking the top placements. Finally, we have FlyQuest and Golden Guardians at the top. Maybe it won't last. Maybe they'll collapse. But this is a good sign. We haven't had Golden Guardians up for a long time. And FlyQuest
true.
was like very bad, then good for a little bit, and then bad again, right? So
Yeah.
it's very good to see this.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's so many other storylines in the LCS, so I'll let you guys pick, but just let me give you some that we could potentially talk about next. All right. So Cloud9, we could revisit Eminez. I know we talked about his horrible first game, but in general,
I'm
what you
down to
think?
talk about him, yeah.
EG went 0-2, did not look good. They actually lost to Dignitas, where it looked like Dignitas actually was going to lose that game, even though they were winning, and then they won at the end. So that was a crazy game.
Nah, man, I wanted 018. I genuinely
I
wanted
know.
018.
I did too.
I did too.
Yeah, I
But
did
when they
too.
won, I gotta say I felt a little happy for Santorin and Jensen. I was like, all
Jensen
right,
put in
guys.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. I mean, if I'm being honest, like these two players do not deserve this. Like for the amount of
No.
work and accomplishment and skill they have in LCS, like we should cherish Santorin and Jensen, and then we threw them to Dignitas, and they went
I will say
0-8.
that
It
game
hurts
that they
bad.
won though really was on that Jensen Azir that like just
Yeah.
put everybody in. I
Yeah,
mean, it
which
was
one?
like Yeah, that's
a
true.
lot of
That's
them.
true. A lot of
Yeah.
them.
That
You're right.
last one was
The last one
basically
was what
gonna
I'm
be a
thinking of.
5-man. It was
Yeah.
a 4-man, but it was supposed to be a 5-man because of the Zanyas. That was insanity. That was like the typical NA loses after having a 10k lead and they
Yeah.
collapse. And this is like not on my watch.
Yeah.
Nobody beats me. Was
They
it 11
almost-
times, 10 times in a row?
Cannot believe they almost
Yeah.
threw that one. It was one of those times where it's like if they lose that game, it's like yeah, just give it the 018. But now they won a game, okay? They won a game, and you know what I'm gonna say? The dream is dead. That's fine. Let's move past the dream. Tomo, okay? It's insane how much better he is than Spawn. He's
Yeah.
not that great, honestly. He was a little awkward, Tomo still, but he is so unbelievably way better than Spawn. He's just an actual ADC. He's just an actual player. So that's good for him and his career. He's a developing player, right? I think had a small stint in the LCS earlier, but he, this is good for him, good for his career. We want to be bringing up NA talent. Like he's stuck on Dig, right? But we want him to at least do something, right? So I'm glad that he got to get Dignitas their first win. I also think for Spawn, they hit it pretty well on the dive, but he had the worst stats, but he was considered amazing in Academy. Clearly, it's a big mismatch, so it's good for Dig. It's good for Spawn to get out of there, align, try to figure out a different way to get your career going. I'm excited for Tomo. Let's see if he can light a fire under Dig's ass, and then we want our bottom teams to like push our top teams. They're not making playoffs, but you can make our top teams sweat and try harder. Because clearly, EG needs to try harder. Oh my God, they're not this bad of a team. They shouldn't be at least, but.
Well, I knew it was bad when JoJo freaking picked Jace, man. When will NA ever learn that? Honestly, I'm not even memeing. Like, whenever I see it now in draft, I automatically put like -2 on my percentage of like they're gonna win. Like I'm like they're not gonna win. It doesn't matter what team it is. I'm just like there's no way because even some of the good teams have played Jace, and I'm still
Vikla
like
lost.
Vikla. Yeah, I was like
one loss.
Exactly. I just did I just looked up on Oracle's Elixir because I wanted to see. I think Jace has only won once, and it's been played like 9 times.
It's won once or twice. It's not
once
a
or
lot.
twice. Yeah, it's not a lot at all. So
lot.
every time I see it, I'm like,
times.
yeah, I'm not believing in it.
Do you guys know how like content's like region lock? Sometimes it's because cultural differences and stuff like that. I petitioned that we do a region lock on champions. That
Yeah.
NA is not allowed to play Jace.
We're not
I
allowed.
don't give
Not allowed
a
to
shit.
play Jace.
No.
If Jace is the
Jace
number one
plays.
character in the region or whatever, we should just lock it up. We should just say the second a pro player plays it, we petition them. We're like, no, never again. I don't care. You went 10-0. Yeah, congrats. Keep those stats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
NA Jace.
right.
EU Jace though, Chasey. Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Chasey is good at Jace. I was like, oh, so it's not just a Asian team thing. Okay,
Okay.
other people can play this champion because that guy was good at it, and then we
Isn't
cannot
Chasey
play
Korean?
it. Oh, maybe he is. Never mind.
He's the
Oh,
Korean
God.
enforcer.
I take it back.
That's why.
I take it back.
Unlucky.
I take it back. Yeah.
So he's not. It's not a Western. Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. We have Koreans in NA that are terrible at Jace. Like Someday did not look good on Jace. So
Someday can't play Jace
yeah,
anymore.
I don't
when
necessarily
he
think.
first came here, he could.
Yeah,
play
maybe.
Jace.
Yeah.
What happened?
But he's been here too long.
he
That's
just
the
became
problem.
Too NA. It's
Yeah,
true.
he's NA now.
It's
like
so
that's
true. It
I
hurts,
don't
but
think
it's
Chasey
true.
has been in the LEC that long, right?
Yeah, no, it's his first split.
See,
so that's
there
why
you
he's
go.
good at Jace.
Give
you
him
know?
3 years. Give him 3 years.
Poor
Decline.
guy.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, is there anything else on EG? Because I mean, they did crap the bed, but they also did not look good as a whole. Again,
JoJo
yeah.
sucks, man. JoJo, I mean, it's regular season EG. This happened last spring too, right? JoJo was not very impressive last a whole year ago. Great laning stats could not translate into team fights. That was like his rookie, like the I can't fix this problem thing. And then he kind of did fix it, right? They won the split, and then they looked much better in summer. But he's back to having the same problems. He has really great laning, cannot translate into the mid game, and he just gets caught out and dies in ints over and over again. I also think Someday is just not relevant at all. He doesn't seem to get anything done. Besides that, though, I mean, FBI, Vulcan, and Inspired, I think they're just consistently good. So that's why they've still been able to pull out these wins. But their solo laners are not it right now. They have to
Yeah.
try. they're not trying.
Good point.
Yep, I
Okay.
agree with Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
Alright.
much. I mean,
Yeah, let's talk about Eminez.
Yeah.
This guy's Eminem. What an
mean-
interesting debut.
I feel bad. Like, can you really chalk that up? Like, I mean, they just had his. I mean, maybe it was nerves or whatever, but I didn't like the fact that he was hyped in as like this crazy LeBlanc or like solo kill player, and then he picks Victor. I'm like, really? I was like,
That's a Golden Guardians too, right? Like you
anti-hype,
think
man.
like, come on, just flex on him, right? Just
Yeah.
smurf on him. Like, I that's what I thought they were just gonna do. Like,
Yeah.
just go ham, mess up Gory, do some crazy stuff. But no, they just put him on Victor, and they totally abandoned him in the mid lane in his first
Mhm.
showing. But yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on Eminez? Yeah.
So his first game, his Victor was bad. I mean, Jat did a review over it. I don't necessarily agree with everything Jat was saying in it, honestly. I kind of felt like he was giving him a free pass on some of those. Like some of them, I get it. Some of the plays he made mistakes on, I could recognize as like, this is a player who listened to the calls on his teams, and the calls on his teams were bad. Or that he didn't know the timing because he's not used to being on stage, right? So he went too early, went too late. But those are still his mistakes. At the end of the day, like your inability to make good decisions is literally the definition of being a pro player, right? Like Chovy is an amazing player. He's a mechanical god. I don't call him the best player in the world by far because he makes bad decisions when it matters, and it will count, right? So that was cool. But his second game makes this such a much more interesting narrative because like he did pop off. I don't necessarily think he actually like 1v5 carried or anything. Like it was a winning game, but he showed that he actually does have skills, and it made me wonder like it must have been a team call for him to play friggin' Victor on his first game. Like, why are we doing this, guys? Like, why are we not playing our best champions? You should have let him shine so he could build confidence. It's a good thing he won game 2, or I was like, honestly, I don't want to see another hyped up player just like get completely smashed because NA can't manage their stars.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that does a pretty good job of explaining it. I don't really have much else to say other than what Kevin said. So
Yeah. I liked the second game on the LeBlanc, obviously. I mean, it was kind of like they were smurfing on TSM and kind of having some fun. I mean, they picked Rengar, and Blabber was kind of just throwing his body in there for fun.
That was
So,
funny.
Yeah. So he did get to have some hype plays on LeBlanc, but I mean, TSM's bot lane, they're bots. They're actually just bots. So you know he's just farming NPCs. So Eminez, I think the real question we have to ask is, it's 2 games. We've had I don't know how many games with Diplex. Is it better? Is it worse? Is it no opinion? Yes, no, right? If Diplex is in the Golden Guardians game, does C9 win? I'm gonna say probably not. But you know, Diplex was way worse in lane and didn't have the pop-off potential, but way more consistent. Didn't int and would do decent damage and make some decent plays in the mid game and skirmishes once he got some items. But you know,
Well, this is where
yeah.
I think you have to give him a little bit of the benefit that it's new. Like he's literally
it's been
on
2 games.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
2
really
games.
tell.
I will say that you know, just I got to look at the stats, right? His gold at 10 was the highest among all the mid laners this past week. He also had the second highest DPM out of all mid laners, and also the highest damage percentage of all mid laners. So again, take stats with a grain of salt. It's only 2 games, right? But considering how bad his Victor game was, the fact that he still was eking out top rankings in some of these statistics is pretty cool. But again, small sample size. I will say that for laning, if that's what they want him for, I think it's a good sign. The fact that he could still get blasted and Victor and still kind of hold his own, because I mean, to be honest, like Victor's not a good early game champion anyways. I'm not making excuses for him, but technically you scale and you become a monster anyways, right? So I guess you could throw him that bone as well. But I do think that judging from this, if I give him some of those passes for being new and maybe trusting a little too much in the team calls, I think it's a good sign, especially when he got his LeBlanc. Definitely, if he was like, okay, I'm gonna pick me, and they're like, okay, yeah, do you? Then you know, I'm looking forward, and I'm expectant that he will turn out better than Diplex was.
Okay.
I mean, I already have my take on him, and he's already done more than Diplex. Because like, here's the thing:
Damn.
Herbivore mid laners have never ever
Yeah.
carried NA, ever
Wow,
internationally.
yeah.
Okay, if you think about like what that one time we went to,
We're all thinking of the
Semifinals?
player. We all know who it is.
You're
we
excited?
know what
Got
you're
it.
saying. Yeah.
Son of a
I was
gun.
talking about Jensen and that
Oh,
time
okay.
that,
Oh, okay.
that C9 made it to
I'm sorry,
C9 made it,
Bjergsen.
right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was not thinking of Bjergsen, but now that you mention it, it is relevant. I was thinking that time that Jensen carried them against the Freak of Freaks, right? He played LeBlanc. Like we would, if Diplex locked in LeBlanc in group stage or quarterfinals, would we feel good? He's a consistent mid laner, sure, but so were recent
Bjergsen.
Bjergsen.
Yeah.
I remember when DeMonte was playing, like he would just sit there in mid, right? He would be fine. He could roam, but he was never gonna win lane. He was never gonna be picking a Kali, right? We need players who can make plays. And sometimes you're going to look bad, but sometimes you're going to get a Zeka run. And NA, if you don't have something like that, I don't give a crap if you win NALCS. Well, I do, but I care more like, do you have any upside for international? And Diplex did not look like he had upside for international.
Yeah, at least for a team like C9. Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah, for a team like C9.
I don't know. He didn't tell his team to kill himself, so it's a positive.
Hey,
Yeah.
people can change, Alistair.
Yeah.
People
Hey,
can
we don't
League of
know
Legends players,
that.
I don't know about that.
That's true. That's
We
true.
don't know if he
We
didn't
don't
tell.
know.
Okay,
his
it's
teammates
one,
to
it's
kill
one thing
themselves.
for people to flame in chat, right? Because they were typing in chat, people forget that
Yeah.
you're talking to a human. When you're doing it in person,
Yeah.
Yeah.
get off the team, you're gone.
I mean,
I
look, here's what I'm going to say, though.
No, maybe.
I give him respect if he at least has the balls to say it in person, because it's like people love to say keyboard stuff, keyboard warriors, right? But when it comes to real life, if he's bold enough to say it and potentially get his butt kicked, then all right, you shouldn't say it, but you might get your ass kicked though too.
I hope there's a little bit of spice from Eminez, like
Hell yeah,
Sven like accidentally feeds a kill over to his mid laner, like
yeah. Types
It's
in
just
chat.
another
Just
iteration of
all
the
over
Bjergsen
again.
stare. It's just another Bjergsen stare.
I would
Yeah.
love it. I'd be down for a little bit of spice from Eminez. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. Keep him over Diplex. Like I'm putting him in. If I'm C9, I'm putting him in next week. Even if he ends, I'm probably gonna keep putting him in over Diplex because like, yeah, you know, they got rid of Jensen and they need to find someone who's better to fit in there if they want to win titles again. So yeah, down on the M&S.
Okay.
Interesting that this is happening in the league though. Like what a controversial like decision. It's kinda
Honestly,
cool.
I actually think, the more I thought about it, I actually think this is a good move. And honestly, just like in, I again, I'm referencing NBA because that's a sport that I am familiar with. But in the NBA, there's typically times when people are going to be subbed in and out. Like it's a timed rotation. You just know that at the 2-minute mark, they're going to sub in this guy for this person. And that's just kind of part of the plan. I wouldn't mind if, maybe in league that after the first round robin, that kind of becomes a thing where people are like, you know what? We got to see how it was like with this roster playing against everyone's team. We've gotten a little bit of evaluation. It's not a big deal. We're just going to try something else. Like we're going to try this new mid laner and see if that actually makes us better. And if not, we just swap it right back, whatever. But I would like to see, because again, we've seen teams with, more than 5-person rosters, and some have had success, some haven't. But I think it's actually a good thing to maybe try, especially if the meta does keep changing frequently with all these patch changes. Maybe you have a meta where the mid laner needs to just be more of a mage. Right now, mages suck. So maybe you swap in your mid laner who's really good at, melee mids or assassin mids or something like that, right? So I wouldn't mind seeing if there was this, this kind of routine timing of like after first round robin, expect teams to kind of try something out and see if things work.
There is a bit of a history with that. I remember C9 back in the day, they had Impact in Ray, like the Sword and Shield meme.
Yeah. Oh,
or
gosh,
they had EasyHoon and Faker, right? EasyHoon was better at Azir and Cassiopeia or whatever. And then they had Uzi, right? He wanted to take a break during the regular season. And then Uzi comes in and plays to try and win and stuff. And then Blabber, Svenskeren, stuff like that. So there's a bit of a history of it, but for some reason the whole world has shifted away. Like it doesn't seem like any roster out there is doing that anymore at all. So I don't know. Maybe
I think it's the fear of like the synergy, and it is a different sport than there are some sports that do a lot of subs. It's routine. Or there are some sports that hardly ever sub. That's just how it goes. So I don't know. League is still kind of I think maybe trying to figure that out, and there's really not a set standard. But I think it's just interesting in a sense, especially if it does seem to work out for most teams. And, it would be neat. And if anybody's going to do it, I think Cloud9 would be the one to pioneer that because of their systems. I'm starting to believe a little bit in their systems, just based on what we've seen.
I mean, I was believing when they won last split. I was like, oh, you guys were dog shit, and you guys actually won the whole split. So I don't know. I was like, that's pretty.
I mean, look, they got
convincing.
rid of the LS thing. People were up in arms, right? And so was I. And I still wish we could have seen LS for a whole split. But it looks like they knew what they were doing. Okay, so I'm just saying they always seem to find ways to perform at a high level.
Well, the split they got rid of Ellis, they collapsed.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, they had to remake their shit to have any chance. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
By
Okay. Good
remaking
point.
their shit, you mean boot Summit.
yeah,
Yeah.
pick the MVP.
Hey,
Which
but
turned
maybe
out to be
yeah,
the right-
that's
We
true.
were all
No,
like,
I'm-
that doesn't seem like a good idea. It was a good idea. We just didn't realize, we didn't realize
Well-
how good of an idea it was to get rid of Summit because
It's probably not that hard
Um,
for them to tell though, because he's in the
yeah.
org, so they have to
Yeah.
deal with
I
him.
can't
I
wait
mean-
for TL to boot Summit, and then they just pop off in Summer Split.
okay, we were talking about TL. I gotta say it.
Okay, here we
There's-
go.
there's
Kevin,
Marn-
here we go.
Marn is in Champions Queue, and apparently he is smurfing. He's like kicking ass in Champions Queue.
Oh my!
Okay,
If it
that's what I've
happens,
heard. That's what I've heard. He's very vocal in Champions Queue comms, and he's like, "Yo, stack this wave," and he freaking stacks the wave, and then they 3-man dive Impact, and then they just snowball the game like crazy from top
Okay.
lane against
happening.
Impact in Champs Queue or something like that. And I'm like, ooh, that's looking pretty good.
You know
Some
what?
TL Marn.
That's my conspiracy theory. Maybe that's why they brought Marin in as a coach.
yeah,
Yeah.
what we were
Yeah.
talking about
Experiment.
before. Yep, you're right.
Yeah,
They're like,
I'm
back
down
up.
for it.
That's
Don't
funny.
give me hope. Don't
All right,
do
Kevin.
it, guys.
Come on, Kevin. We're on TL now. I wasn't going to talk about them because they're just bad, but I have to let you, get your
They're
rant
so
out. Come on,
fun.
man.
I love
Stop
this.
bullying
Yeah,
Kevin, man.
I'm sorry,
I love
man.
this team. This is my
They're
favorite
worth
team.
talking about in the sense that, there's just a lot of notable things. Like, okay, Summit stats. If you don't watch the game, if you just looked at the stats on GOL, he's got a friggin' 15 CSD at 15 minutes. His goal differential is also pretty good.
It's hilarious.
He doesn't have always good jungle attention. I think Piotrek is actually playing pretty well recently, but he sometimes just does it himself, right? But then sometimes he just loses his mind. I do see the glimpses of why Summit is on this team because when he works, he's like, wow, this guy is insane. But his downsides are way too low, right? So if Marin joins, obviously it would be an upgrade. Would it happen? I doubt it, but it would give me hope. The team
Let's
once
do
again,
it.
the battle of the two lost streak rosters, basically the 100 Thieves and Team Liquid. Actually, Team Liquid already broke their lost streak, but it's kind of the narrative, anyways. It was actually really close. This was a game where Liquid should have won, and they just did not. Jan showed that why are we playing Lucian on Jan? They've lost every Lucian Nami game, and they've only won one Lucian game without Nami. And then they've lost every Azir game, or at least won once. It's actually disgusting. They keep trying to force it, and I get it. You want to be an aggressive team. You want to show that you can do this, but y'all are about to miss playoffs. You just lost the tiebreaker to 100 Thieves. This could be very important. So unless you get your shit into gear and pick comps that you can actually win games with, stop picking this garbage because Azir's not bad, but you can't play Azir, so therefore it's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was very passionate.
I mean, Liquid is a problem because they actually show leads all the time. They show their gold differential at 15 minutes is 1,500 gold, guys. This team has 19 CSD as a team at 15 minutes and they're one of the top teams at that point in the game, and they still keep losing. So it's awful to watch because you're just well, how are we gonna lose this one?
Mhm.
I gotta say, against that Team Liquid 100 Thieves game was really painful to watch because Team Liquid, they were ahead, they were in the driver's seat, and Summit was actually playing fairly well as a frontliner. But Eon, Harry could not. I mean, Piotrek had a great weekend on Wukong. He found the Wukong pick, and then he actually was carrying. He was smurfing against Immortals, and he was playing pretty well against 100 Thieves. But you just they just opted into 5v5 run at each other style, and Team Liquid was running forward, and Doublift was just I mean, I'm gonna be honest, it felt like it was 4 people on 100 Thieves were super nervous and they didn't want to fight, and then all 5 of people on Team Liquid were too nervous and didn't want to fight, except maybe Summit's just taking there. Doublelift is just going in. Dude, he's just like flying in there. He's like, I'm bored. You guys suck. I'm done with this do nothing and lose thing. I'm just flying in and
Yeah.
fighting. And that's the only way anything ever happened. Because God, Team Liquid and 100 Thieves were so hesitant to just do anything. It really speaks to show where these guys are in their development as teams. I don't really know what to think if we're gonna still stick with Team Liquid. I don't know if like it's just a time thing, like maybe they just need more time, or if they need to change their strategy, or if they need to make roster changes. What I do know is whatever they're doing right now is like they it's a mental thing. I really do think it's like they just mental boom past 20 minutes, past 25 minutes, or they lose focus, or they just don't know what to do, right? They don't have this amazing shot calling that CoreJJ's been known for back in his heyday. Like, I'm not really sure what it is, because they do get leads and they do have insane laning stats sometimes, and they do win lane. Like, but they just can't win. They just can't win, man. I really don't know what it is.
I mean,
This was-
I genuinely think it's Summit. I've been in the situation before on an amateur team where my top laner is just permanently dying, and even though we're winning other parts of the map consistently, it doesn't matter because we can't play for that lane because the other side of the map's going to lose so much harder. So they're going to lose in the 1v1. Obviously, that's not Summit's problem. He can win the 1v1, but if he's dying to every gank, it doesn't matter. Like, you're putting two different classes against each other, and you're kind of just fighting over who's going to do it. You have to adapt your playstyle to, help with your weak link sometimes. And if they're putting resources into someone who averages the highest deaths in a top laner in the league, it really hurts the team.
I think it really hurts the team, and then whenever there are those games though that Summit is not doing that inting stuff and he is playing normally and okay, Harry and Neon, they do go for the plays, or they don't go for the plays, but they just don't work out, right? Like, the amount of times Harry has just whiffed Azir ultis and lost them fights for fun, or like Neon has just dashed in and killed himself as Lucian. They're just so unlucky, right? Summit inting, okay, game lose. Oh, Summit's not inting. Okay, we can win. Oh, Harry, no. Oh, Yeon, no. And then it's just like this domino effect of like, or even Pioshik. Oh no, flashing in Cataclysm, 4 people die. Like, they just like they're very they can't all just play normal at the same time. So I'm afraid they're gonna miss. I'm scared they might miss playoffs. This is spooky for them. They're they're all the way down there.
I mean, it's
I
not
still
playing
think,
normal,
yeah.
dude. Summit
Like-
played really well on Scion. Like, he was just playing very well as a tank, like as well as you can be expected. It basically looked like Impact, right? Like, he looked very good.
Yeah, the
If
one
his team
game it
didn't
feels like
int
he
him
doesn't
away.
permadize on Scion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
he can't.
champion that's good while
the-
dead.
I've got an all in. I've got an
Didn't use
all
a
in.
massive well.
I've got an all in comment right here. Alistair does not like Summit. that's I
It just
kid.
tilts.
I
It
kid.
tilts
gonna
me.
lock
Because
that
you
in?
can do the same mistake
No.
for a year and a half and just not change it at all, even though
That's
Yeah.
everyone can tell what it is.
No, that's not a
unfortunately,
real.
it's not
The
a year
all
and a
in
half.
comment has to be
Also-
bigger than that. So
Yeah.
I just.
There's got to be stakes to your all in.
Yeah, it's a mini one.
Even if your opinion changes.
Here's the unfortunate thing. It's not just a year and a half. When he was on Sandbox, they were like a 9th place team. Now they're like perennially like a 4th place team as soon as he left.
Eesh.
Like, so like he came from being bottom tier still. So
yeah.
he's
true.
never had a winning like streak in his life actually.
He
Yeah.
he made FPX better. Whoever he replaced in FPX, actually, that team got better. When he
They
came
did
in
get
last
better,
year.
but they were out in playoffs in the first, like
Yes.
their first best
He
of.
came- yeah,
So
he came
you
into
know,
it.
it's
He
like
started good
okay,
on C9.
He started great. That's true. He got MVP. That was the most notable. The most notable thing in his entire career was
Mhm.
smurfing.
That he's the worst
LCS
MVP in NA
and
history.
getting the worst MVP. That's the most notable thing he's ever done in his career. Because he,
All right.
He gets
yeah.
the MVP and then just says, I don't care anymore.
I know.
Mid lane,
yeah,
Peaked.
I've peaked.
I've peaked. I don't care.
I've
I'm
hit the
sending it.
summit.
I've hit this. Oh wait, that's
Good
sad.
one, Kevin. That's like a
That's
dad
sad.
joke. You're
Yeah, I was
fitting
gonna
up
say,
to my
that's
status.
Wrong person making the
All right,
joke
Kev.
there.
I know. I love it though. I get it. I hear you, man. But so we're at an hour and 20 minutes. So I'm gonna do final thoughts. But there's anything you can lump in there because the rest of the teams all went 1-1 except for CLG. But they played easy teams, so they went 2-0. But any final thoughts regarding any of the other teams or any points you want to make?
Yeah, the final thought I would have is like the upheaval in the LCS besides, the two shitter teams at the bottom. Like it's been really interesting. I like that CLG and TSM like are like competitive at least. Like you don't know what the result is before they play. I think that Solo should get, and then my weird take is Solo should get a chance on a real team. Like he should just like on a really good team. I think
Yeah.
we haven't ever seen him on a top team, have we? And I'm really
FlyQuest when he made Worlds.
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
FlyQuest,
and then he got
yeah.
kicked. he
Second
saved
place.
FlyQuest, got him to Worlds, and then he got kicked.
They should sub Licorice out and put him
Dude,
on,
that-
on
if
there.
GGS
that-
had Solo, they're a #1 team.
That'd
in my
be
mind.
awesome.
No,
They-
I don't. That's cap. That's cap, guys.
You don't think
Really?
so?
Cap. No, I don't think so.
I-
Solo's fine. He's fine. But like Solo to Licorice, like in my mind that's like almost as high grade. I don't think Solo's that good. I think Solo is solid. Like he's not as inty, but he doesn't have as high as highs. Licorice has higher highs, but maybe more inty. Those are side grades to me.
Okay.
Solo's a little
Interesting.
overhyped in my book, like for those things.
But all you need in that FlyQuest roster or GGS roster is a top laner that doesn't end. They're winning everywhere else. Great.
I can do it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm okay, guys. I'm okay. If Golden Guardians wants
Alright.
to improve, you don't have to do solo. There's a million other options you can go for there. That's okay, guys.
Revenge.
Revenge.
Yeah, I was gonna think.
Yeah.
That was no. All right,
not
Mitchell.
for revenge
Okay.
either.
All right. Who would
Mitchell
you
wants
put
to
in
do
then?
more.
I know. I need. Who?
No, I
Who?
wouldn't. I wouldn't put any. I mean, just keep Licorice. It's fine. There's no top laner in
Really?
the LCS that like. I mean, obviously Impact would be great, but like no, like I don't think there's any top laner that like is on.
So what you're saying
a
is
lower
you-
org that you would just throw on.
you just
GGS that
don't
would make it
want-
better.
You would say if they swapped him out, it should be an actual like really noticeable upgrade. Like I think
Yeah.
what we're saying is that these upgrades are big enough. Maybe it's not an impact type swap, but I think we're saying the it's big enough to actually, because the rest of the team is really good. We think it's enough to catapult them to that top tier,
It's a
even
realistic
though
upgrade. Impact's not gonna
Yeah.
leave, so.
exactly. So now that I frame it like that, what do you think? I'm trying to see if he'll buy it.
Yeah, I don't think Revenge Solo have never shown anything that is actually like, yeah, they're better than Licorice. Like,
Yeah,
no,
but
they're
Revenge
all-
has always been on IMT.
yeah. So there's no proof that he's good. There's no proof that Revenge is good.
No, he's had a lot of big moments carrying that team. I disagree with that statement.
I mean, I think it's been okay. I've seen Revenge also just run in 1v5 as Fiora.
Oh, man, I wish there was- I wish there was some kind of way we could make an all-in statement right here somehow, but it's all conjecture because we don't know that if they ever. But if they do make a sub, then it'd be interesting to see. Then I might have to make a statement once that happens.
Okay, because Licorice has something that like a lot of these other players don't. Is like, I mean, he actually plays side lanes. Like Licorice can actually play side lanes and side lane. Like Revenge has never been able to play. He's made big plays and he's like done some crazy stuff on like Renekton and blah and like fought people in skirmishes or Rift Herald fights or whatever. But these guys can't play side lanes. Solo, I mean, he kind of played side lane against FlyQuest, but he was just dying over and over again, right? Like Licorice, he's sometimes irrelevant, but you know what? So is the enemy top laner because he's playing side lane because they're both top laners on an island. I mean, I think
got
it's
it.
fine. Yeah, who is it?
Okay.
Golden Guardians Whippo.
Whippo? Oh yeah.
Oh,
no, I'm actually down for that.
Okay.
I have to do
Okay.
that.
Okay, I
Oh,
That's
now
a real upgrade.
all right,
that
we
would be a
found the
real
one.
upgrade
All
for me.
right, good
Yeah,
job,
yeah, yeah.
Alistair.
No, that's
We all
real.
agreed. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Whippo's
good.
way better
Whippo
than
on the
Licorice.
bench this split
That's no
is
cap.
honestly crazy.
They
That's
could
no
sub
cap
him
at
in.
all.
He's not playing. They
Yeah.
could swap him in.
they
Maybe
could.
spring
Oh,
split
shit,
or
sure,
summer
maybe they
split.
could sub.
But hey, you know
Is
what?
that
But
time to learn
they
Korean?
probably okay. Golden Guardians also has that vibe where it's like we're all friends too, so they probably like Licorice. That's why he's there. They're homies. You know, he's on the train, he's on the boat. He's like, yeah, I'll just hang out, play Jack Show Renekton, go 0-0.
Oh.
You know, like it's chill, guys. Jack Show into Bork Renekton.
Oh
It's
my
fine.
Boy,
It's fine.
all right.
It's not a bad build.
It should be
Like-
illegal to mention that build in public. That
Yikes.
is
All right.
Hey,
Any
he went
other?
Radiant Virtue Renekton? I was like, hey, that's way better actually. I like that a bit
very
better.
relatively, yeah,
Correct.
for sure.
All right. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah, I got some final thoughts. You know what? Watching LEC and having playoffs and them actually having like diversity in picks was such a sight to see because like not only is it like we're in a regular season, so there's like not enough pressure, right? But like there's just no incentive for you to try wacky, weird stuff. So we're just getting the same recycled drafts every day, all day of the like just all games are just recycled drafts over and over again. And yeah, we need that. We need the LEC format. Everyone needs the LEC format or some
Yeah.
extent of incorporating best of 3s and best of 5s early in the year because I'm so sick of these drafts. I hate Vi, guys. I
Yeah.
hate Vi with a burning passion now. Oh my god, watching her click people, like it's the only way Prince can die, right? It's because it's point and click and it's really easy and it's really like devastating CC. Like there's no other way that you can actually like there's no skill. There's no skill in Vi. I hate her. She's the worst champion to have be meta in pro play. No skill expression. So they need to change the meta. You know, we need to have different stuff going on. And you know what? It's not even about the meta. It's about just the players and what they pick. They're just lazy because you can do some wacky ass stuff, right? We saw it for every single team in the LEC playoffs. They picked non-meta stuff in 13.1b. So
Yeah.
I want to see it. I need to see it.
No arguments for me, that's for sure. And I'm
I-
pretty sure a lot of LCS fans wouldn't
If I
mind
see
it
another
either.
Lucian, Nami, Zeri, Lulu,
Dude, I'm telling you. Or Kate Lux. It's one of those.
I mean, Vi, Sejuani, Maokai, I'm gonna Azir.
You could kind of predict, you could almost kind of predict the first like 6 picks. It's
as
gonna be
soon
a
as I
bot
see
lane and a
Caitlyn
jungler.
banned, I see
Yeah.
Caitlyn Ash banned, and I'm like, oh, I know we're draft forgetting. Oh, I know we're draft forgetting. Caitlyn Ash is
Yeah.
banned. Okay, give me that Zeri Lulu, Lucian
Yeah.
Nami trade. Okay, Sejuani for Vi or Sejuani for Maokai. This is every freaking time, guys.
Well, we'll see.
So-
Now that we're on 13.4, we'll see if anything changes. I mean,
I
again,
just hope we see Aurelion Soul, and then
oh yeah,
and then
be
something
crazy.
happens and maybe it gets nerfed into oblivion because I hate that champion.
And
But,
me too. I'm banning it every time. But,
dude,
that's-
Aurelion Soul is so toxic. I
That's a
think he's
whole
really
nother-
fun to- He's
At
really
least he's
fun
cool.
to play. He's
He is
cool,
cool.
and funny, and he's fun
Yeah.
to play. But that's not healthy game design,
No,
guy.
not at
He's
all.
like, oh my
gosh.
god,
I hate playing against it.
I hate playing against it too.
Oh gosh,
But
that could be another
I hope we see
episode.
it.
Yeah.
I
All
think
right.
I think we're gonna see it, guys, next week. I think we're gonna see it this week. It is enabled.
You willing to make an all-in statement on that?
All right, I'll make an all-in statement.
Let's
All
go. Come on.
I'm all in. We will see Aurelion Soul at least once in the LCS this week.
Okay, but what's the?
Pretty
There's got to be
much.
stakes though. What's your
The
stakes?
stake is, I mean, it's pretty low. It's a pretty.
I know.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty,
I feel like this
small-
isn't-
okay, here's if we don't see it, then I don't know. What do you guys want me to do? What do you guys-
Hashtag
Yeah.
IMT win on the forehead.
All right.
Yeah.
all right, Hashtag IMT win. Can I do dig? I want to do dig.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
bro.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
do dig.
It's
I'm
not
with
my
it.
all in. I don't care what the
Oh,
punishment
yeah,
is.
that sounds
do
good.
dig.
All right, so we have to see ASOL at least once. That's
Yeah, and
if
then-
not,
Pick
So
then-
funny
format.
that you expand every game, and Mitch comes into next podcast with a
I-
dig.
Okay, hey, but if I have an interview, I'm writing it on a piece of paper and then taping it to my forehead. Okay, I'm
That's
not
fine.
writing it on my
That's
actual
fine.
head.
Yeah, that's fair,
Okay,
that's
whatever.
That's fair.
That's
That's fair.
completely
Not losing your
understandable.
job
That's
for
fine.
dig, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
That's cool.
But the interviewer's like, "Is there something on your head? No, is there something on your screen? Maybe it's you gotta clean it. Yeah, that's not in my
Yeah.
head. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks, guys, for all your wise insights. Appreciate it as always. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Peace.